right. Welcome back to the Interjections Podcast. Can you guess what our subject is going to be today? I know the listeners can't hear, but we're all wearing brightly colored masks, blue, red, purple, and orange. So it's highly appropriate for what we're going to be talking about. Usually we talk about movies from the 90s. That's why we've subtitled this The Undiscovered Decade. And we're going through the 1990s. And this month, we're going to be talking mainly about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm Tristan Moore, one of the four co-hosts.
I'm Jim,
We
the
don't
friend.
we don't need to do this all the time. We can take these.
Yeah.
Corey.
Like,
And I'm Michelangelo.
Sure, buddy.
oh, come on, Jeff. Oh,
Okay,
wait, for your cover.
Anyway,
No, whatever.
so
I'm just. I went through so much hell to get this on my face. I'm not taking it off now.
You actually look good
I am-
with it on.
I am
look
committing.
Like the dude from the Goonies. So.
I'm on. I'm doing this.
You mean you're not?
I don't break character until we do the DVD commentary. Let's do this.
So welcome again. This is our third episode. We're going through month by month through the 90s. And this is March, and we started realizing that there are going to be months where there are multiple movies that are pretty important. And this one is very important to all of us as we were, 5, 4, 3, and 2 when this came out. And so this colored our childhood because it was a huge franchise, cartoons. It was originally comics in the 80s. In fact, as this comes out, it's around the anniversary of Mirage Studios, which was Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman's comic company they made up. And the reason they called it Mirage was because they didn't actually have a studio. They just wrote these comics on like pieces of paper they had and went to conventions and sold them. So
it was a shell
Mirage.
company, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that was nice.
Was this a tax dodge?
Shell, no.
Might have been.
It's a half shell company.
Yeah.
Ah.
So this is around the time also when the cartoon premiered back in '87. So it's the 37th anniversary of the comic company, 32nd anniversary of the cartoon premiering. But back in, it was March 27th, I think, that it came out. March 30th, 1990 was the date that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles premiered. So why don't we get into that? There are two other movies we're going to talk about, but this one is the most important. So,
The most.
I don't know if you want me to keep talking. I feel like I'm commanding the whole thing, but
Well, let's start with how old were you guys when you first saw the movie?
I must have seen it in theater, so I would have been like 4 or 5. Actually,
I think
no.
I saw it in theaters as well.
I don't know if I did because my first movie is Rocketeer, and that's 91. So I don't think I saw anything until I was 5.
I definitely saw this in theaters, and I think not long after that, the Out of the Shell concert tour was enacted. I remember getting my poster signed by the Turtles when they visited the mall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
still
I
had
have that VHS still of Out of the Shell tour.
Yeah.
I watched it one
I had the video cassette.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I saw this in theaters when I was about 4.
Nice.
Okay. Was that your first movie?
No. They had re-released Snow White around that time, so I think that was the first thing I saw in the theater.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did Pinocchio when that re-released, but that was after Rocketeer. So
Yeah.
What about you, Jimmy?
when did you first see it?
I was about 4 or 5. Pretty sure I saw it on VHS.
Yeah, I must have
That
seen
was
it on
probably the
VHS.
first time.
FHE released it.
Yeah, we actually rewatched this on VHS. I found a VCR,
That's
and
amazing.
that's how we watched it.
That was kind of trippy.
So the
Reliving those glory days.
It was like VHS on an HD TV. That's
If there's no vertical tracking, you're not watching it right.
Right.
Yeah. We're literally watching it on one of the things that those hoodlums are stealing in the beginning of the movie.
Right. So good. I was 32, by the way, the first time I saw this movie. I had not
Really?
seen
Wow.
I had seen
we
the
show it to you?
cartoon when I was a kid. Like I had all the action figures and stuff, but somehow I had never seen the movie.
I thought we showed it to you.
You may have. There were
Oh,
some
yeah,
things
we
that
may
I
have had
forgot
some-
early in my
Well,
youth.
we had a lot of wild and crazy drunk youthful
Yeah,
nights.
we might have turned it on and
So-
forced Jeff to watch it while drunk. So
It's
like,
totally possible.
he
That
could have seen it a lot sooner. Just doesn't remember because
They're
we were bad.
they're just snippets that just come back to haunt me every now and then. But
Like
yeah,
Zardoz.
So I was going to ask which our favorite turtle is, but I think that was apparent from what masks we're wearing. But for the listeners, mine was Leonardo.
Mine was Donatello.
Mine was Raphael.
and I got picked last.
Yep.
Yeah, you kind of just defaulted. Sorry, buddy.
It's all right. In watching the movie, I realized I do kind of identify with Michelangelo. So,
What'd you have last night for dinner?
right? I had several pizzas, several kinds of pizza.
Several pizzas.
Yes. But not as good as the cartoon pizza where it's like the cheese is just oozing.
Yeah, I wish.
Well, they had this 6 cheese pizza just in hopes that it would be like that, but in reality, the grease just leaked through everything.
I was gonna say, there's a glory shot in the movie where a slice gets flung on the Splinter's head, and the cheese is just dripping down his head.
I think everyone basically knows the premise of the movie because they knew the cartoons or they've just heard about the Turtles. But it's a basic origin story, and it starts out with April O'Neil. This was Judith Haig in the first one. She's replaced by Paige Turco for the sequels because apparently she complained about the 6-day work week and how much violence was in the Turtles movies. So they just can't.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Which is actually really tame after you rewatch it.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, there's a lot more violence in movies these days.
Oh yeah, no,
but
definitely. I was thinking
also-
exactly that.
What was this PG? I think
No,
PG, yeah.
13. Is it
Which
PG?
you get away with a lot
Oh,
more
what's
in
that?
PG. You
Yeah,
got a lot of dams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a formative thing for all us 5-year-olds to hear Raphael go damn into the sky.
And talking like a teamster.
Yeah, actually,
That's
another fun fact: Josh Pace, who plays Raphael and does his voice, he actually was the one that came up with the Brooklyn accent, and he's the one that helped develop his anger towards everything. And so the Raphael we know today, because that's kind of what they took for all the other TV shows and the sequels and such, he is Josh Pace. Like he developed that characterization. So
it's amazing.
yeah.
See, I honestly, to Corey's point, I genuinely thought that they couldn't find an actor and just had to they hired one of the grips to just do Raphael's voice.
Might as well. I think he is from Brooklyn, so.
It's funny, at one point I thought Raphael was going to start loading trucks and be like, I'm part of the local 212, okay?
I'm just blowing off some steam.
She was, it's weird watching it in high def now because I had only seen it on a VHS format like you have.
Mhm.
I didn't realize, just a weird side note, that how freckled Judith Haig was.
That's
Didn't
interesting.
realize that.
Yeah.
It's true.
Guess
I
they
also
didn't,
speaking of high def, I noticed that it is a very dark movie, just literally dark,
mhm.
probably to hide the prosthetics and stuff, or to go with the ninja.
It was also very
Deal.
low budget. This I heard
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was trying to compete for the Batman money. It's a third of the budget that Batman was, but it made quite a bit. I'll get into
Until,
the box office later.
Until Blair Witch, it was the highest grossing independent movie.
Yeah, it made what 130 million total.
Wow.
I was gonna go into the box office after we did the 3 films, but I mean, we might as well.
I mean, to be
It ended up
fair,
with 135 total. It was the biggest March opening, and it had the biggest March weekend until '97 when Liar Liar came out.
Wow.
So, and now it's the 89th best March weekend because
Yeah.
everything's so inflated. There's
I
only
was going to say, with inflation, it might be higher, probably.
probably, but
Yeah.
It got what 25 million that week. Huge.
It's weird. Up until the turtles are introduced, it almost feels like a gritty, like Michael Winner Death Wish movie.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't know what
It
April's gonna
definitely
do.
it feels like it definitely has that feel of a kids movie that was written by adults. Like
Yeah.
some of the references that are in there.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta pull up my notes here.
I was gonna say there was a couple impressions that Michelangelo does that kids even from that era wouldn't know.
Yeah,
Like
they do
James
the-
Cagney. I didn't know who
Yeah.
James Cagney was when I first watched the movie.
That's probably where I first heard of him.
Right. And the
Yeah.
fact that like he does it so often that one of the other turtles is just like, oh no, not Cagney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The great James Sato played Shredder, which we see coming up throughout the whole movie. They tease him and then they show him, and then we learn the backstory and everything. He was in a bunch of things, including Lost. He's Pierre Chang, I think, is his character. He's the mysterious scientist that starts to help unravel the mystery of the island. So I was very excited when he showed up because I'm like, I think I know that guy.
His introduction is so grand.
Yeah.
The crane shot that they use, the costume looks fantastic. His voice is booming. It's one of the best villain introductions of the 90s.
I turned to Jimmy and I was like, "What's with that cape though?" Because it was like over his blades.
Yeah, like you were confused as like,
how's he gonna get it off? You gotta have like people put it on before he comes off.
Yeah.
It looks
So
like
that
the
they can take it
sunscreen you would have in your car.
Yeah.
I feel like those were probably actually made of metal, so the cape was more of a safety feature so that when he's walking past all the crew, he doesn't actually slash someone.
Or maybe like, the whole theme of ninja is supposed to be like, discreet. He wants to be flashy, so he's like he's like the anti-ninja. Or
He knows he's the best, so he can do whatever he wants.
So he's flaunting it, and it's like, dude, that's not ninja. Knock it off. Come on.
Yeah. I also
using kids as a human shield. You son
That's
of a
true.
bitch.
That is a little weird. He's the Pied Piper, and he's like in this warehouse on Roosevelt Island, basically.
Right.
It's a little weird that he's got a bunch of teenagers. With his life partner Tatsu. So,
they were definitely life partner-y.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't live this life in Japan.
Yeah.
We must come to America, start anew. That's why Shredder's so fabulous.
That is interesting, yeah.
Like, look at him. He looks fabulous.
Yeah, the purple. It's a hot take.
Yeah.
They came to America for a reason.
Maybe he didn't kill What's-Her-Face because he was in love with her.
Oh, my God.
He wanted Splinter's master for himself.
You see all those kids, they adopted them because, it's not legal. So they're like living their life the best as they could.
He bought him off.
Very aggressive.
He bought him off the Wayfair
Turtles
website.
Guys.
I was not expecting Shredder fan fiction today.
Yeah, and this is an LGBT promo movie.
I mean,
Shred fiction.
Yeah.
So, real quick, I don't, I mean, of course, this movie is so super cartoony, and they do like all of the news tropes and the newspaper headlines. But one of my favorite things was in the very beginning of the movie, the news reporter's just like, there's such and such crime rate going on, and things are looking weird. Who we gonna call?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They did
like,
pull a Ghostbusters reference.
They literally just ripped Ghostbusters.
I mean,
for a second.
Why not?
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But I also love that, like, as things are getting worse, there's just a New York Post that just has a headline. It just says it's worse.
Yeah. My favorite in that beginning sequence is when like the lady like turns to say this crime's getting crazy and then turns back and her TV's gone.
Right.
That was my favorite when I was a kid. Actually, forever.
The TV is just getting yoinked out of the shot. I love it.
Yeah. If you notice, Danny, who is the chief of the station's son, who we follow through the whole movie, he's one of the people raiding. So you don't realize until later. I didn't pick it up when I was a kid until then. And a couple of those thugs you see around.
Who's the head thug?
Oh, who's the head thug?
Mr. Sam Rockwell.
Oscar winner Sam Rockwell. Yeah, Jimmy loves when I point this out. Apparently, I do it every time.
Yeah, every time. Never stops.
Did
Like
you know
always
that?
forgets that he tells me.
Did
So
you
he's
know
like,
Scott Wolf is in this? I do that.
Justin Hammer.
There are 5 big actors that have cameos in this. There are a couple of people that are thugs,
Including
and
one that
there's
we've
Sam
worked
Rockwell.
with.
Joseph D'Onofrio, who was in our Who's Jenna movie. He's one of the thugs that Casey beats up in the park. And I think the other is Skeet Ulrich. He's somewhere in the movie. And then
You
Scott
said
Wolf.
big actors.
Yeah, I know. Well, actors people have
Wow.
and it's the 90s. He's still big. He's
Yeah,
coming.
not yet.
Yeah. Scott Wolf, who would go on to do Party of 5 in a few years, he is the one that Casey's like, or I think Tatsu's like, where'd they go or something? And he's like, I don't know. Where's the other one? Oh, Rick Gomez is in there. I don't know which one he is, but he's a South Plainfield kid, which all 3 of us are from. He ended up being in Band of Brothers and a couple other things, Sin City. What else did he do?
come on, you're the nerd. You
Those
know.
are the 2 he's in that we know of. So, what else? There was a big actor. This is a fun fact. Corey Feldman voices Donatello. He did it for $1,500 total because he thought it was just going to be like a quick cartoon paycheck. And this movie made $135 million.
They renegotiated for those sequels.
I forgot to look up if he's in the sequels, but I think if he is, must have made more.
I think he is.
We'll find out next year.
He's at least in the second one, I'm pretty sure.
The sequel's in like a year, so we'll talk about that in a few months.
Really? It was like the next year?
March
For
91?
me,
Oh, wow.
on this rewatch, I felt like Elias Koteas is the MVP of this movie. He's without a doubt the best part.
Hang on.
Huge anthem when I was a kid because we watched a bunch of movies that he was in, but this was easily the best.
See, I just want to see the movie where he and oh my God, what's his name? Elliot from SVU.
Oh, Stabler.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Chris Mahoney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Mahoney.
Where Chris Mahoney and
Maloney.
Elias Koteas are like evil twins of each other.
Well, that's the joke because Maloney's in the first 2 Harold and Kumar's, but then he was unavailable because he was filming like Law and Order or something, and then they just got Elias Koteas and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
yeah, he is a lot of fun. There's some weird stuff that they're trying to find these thugs. I don't know if you can hear that police siren.
Crime wave.
Yeah. He just kind of accepts everything so easily. That scene where he and Raphael meet up for the first time.
He's just like, oh, you're wearing green makeup.
I don't
that's
like
what
punkers.
I thought it was funny. I'm like, I love how
Hate punkers wearing green makeup.
Yeah.
the sigh was the thing that sigh was the thing that he commented on.
Yeah.
Like, not the fact that
What is this? An ancient Japanese farming equipment? What are you doing walking around with it?
He was a Teamster too.
Somebody's eye out.
He's doing a lot of shoulder stuff.
Yeah.
Patrick Elias Koteas.
Yeah. The best part of the movie, I think, though, is when they go to the farmhouse and he and April finally relate. The turtles are like meditating and learning how to be brothers and stuff. But that's the finest part where the 2 of them act.
There was a very Force Ghost moment with the campfire.
I had forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very Star Wars-esque.
They definitely were like, we don't have the Spooner puppet. We're just gonna do this.
Yeah.
and also like they want to reference Star Wars.
I mean, but then again, Star Wars was referencing Japanese samurai movies.
That's true. Everything itself.
It all comes back to Japanese samurai movies.
Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like,
but
like, you know.
Let's talk about, just for a moment, one of my other favorite parts, the Lost Boys kid nightclub.
Yeah, where Sam Rockwell's passing out nicotine.
Right. I just wanted to bring that up.
yeah.
Like,
I didn't know if you were gonna do
like
your favorite part where Danny just wanders off.
No,
and
it was
hangs out
just
with
like
the rat
one of the.
chained up in the corner the whole time.
It was one of those things like I wish that existed when we were, it was like 8 on the break on crack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're like
That's an arcade.
There's no
games
half pipes
and
in there.
pool. No, there was no. But yeah, there were like half pipes, and I'm like, is this connected to another nightclub? Like, I feel like this is like the kids.
It looked like
room of a
Hansel's
different-
hideout in Zoolander.
Yeah.
Right.
It's actually
Some
the
warehouse.
lair actually it's Dino Hatton in Super Mario Brothers. They would use
Oh,
it 2 years
I can't wait
ago.
to talk about that, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be interesting. It's also in The Crow. It's a nightclub.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. I never saw The Crow, so we're gonna have to.
Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that
when that comes up. So I don't know what it looks like, but that's just a lot of this was shot in North Carolina. So that's an old, really like rubber factory. No, it's a cement factory that they just found nearby the farmhouse. And a lot of the city stuff is Wilmington, North Carolina, I believe. I forget exactly which city. I know it's North Carolina. My favorite part of that scene is when there's a dude just like lounging on top of arcade machines. Like that can't be comfortable. But he's just like watching other people. He can't even see the screen from where he's sitting. So what are you doing?
You know what they dealt extras there, like have a bit of business.
Yeah. But it's great. I mean, Sam Rockwell kills it. It's one of his first roles. So
how do we feel about the animatronics after all these years?
That
They hold
was
up.
going to be my other right. Well, that was going to be
fine
my
with
other
it.
thing. Like, it's still like a feat of puppetry.
yeah, this
Engineering.
The only part it looked a little chintzy was the origin story with the little
Ooh.
rat
Yeah.
puppet.
Do you know how
Yeah.
they did this? I actually looked this up. The it's filmed in like a slower frame rate, and it was done by the second unit director Brian Henson, which is Jim's son.
Yeah.
So they tried to make it look like an old movie. So it actually took like twice as long to make, and it was very frustrating apparently. But
I got a question about that scene. Why is it that when Splinter's describing the origin story, he's against a black background like he's doing a 60 Minutes interview?
I think it's to cover the budget.
It was to cover the operators.
The old stuff was done.
He looks like he's talking to Mike Wallace.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they had 3 operators on Splinter actually, including Elmo's big guy.
Yeah, Kevin Clash.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
Wait,
you know.
Yeah, let's not delve further.
But I thought it was funny how one of the first things that Shredder says to Splinter is he asks of the turtles, who are these freaks? He's asking his giant mutant rat friend.
Yeah. Don't worry about me.
Don't worry about me.
And you're the one wearing like a metal mask and knives on your head.
And
Yeah.
have that like fabulous outfit too.
Yeah, you know-
by the way.
Yeah, we're all freaks in this
Right.
hideout.
Everyone's a freak. It's New York City in the 90s.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
by the way, that subway was way too clean to have been an actual New York City subway.
Well, it's definitely a set. Not the one that
Well,
April
yeah.
was back in at first. That is actually in New York. That's one of the few scenes they shot there.
Which one? The one.
They did City Hall, and the one they filmed April getting attacked by the 5-Foot Clan,
Mhm.
and Raphael rescues her. That's like right by City Hall. I forget
Really?
which station it is.
Okay.
It's one
I
of the
stand
ones-
corrected then.
That's it. And Central Park, the stuff with Casey and Joe D'Onofrio. That's like it for New York. But that guy that taps her on the shoulder and like, hey, with a foot, that is Donatello's operator. This is the other thing I love to point out to Jimmy. All 4 turtles get to show up as humans elsewhere in the film. Donatello's that guy. Leonardo is the first thug that attacks her in the first scene when the sai falls and she takes it. Michelangelo, this is my favorite. He's the one that hands the pizza to Michelangelo. He's the Domino's delivery.
Oh yeah,
man.
that was
Well,
trippy
that's
when you
cool.
told me
Kinda
that.
cool.
I was like,
Yeah.
well, that's kind of
So
meta.
he's
Oh,
talking to
that's-
himself because they're recording their voices later.
Yeah.
So he's probably not also the hand. He's the one handing it to whatever other guy is there, but he's
That's
usually
crazy.
Michelangelo. And then Raphael is the cab driver he's the passenger in the back of the cab that almost hits Raphael as he's running. So that's kind of cool. They get a little thing. And Ernie Reyes Jr. is the one that does all the choreography for the fights inside Donatello.
He's in the second movie pretty prominently.
And he's Kino in the second film. So we'll get to talk about him in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
He is one of the better parts of this series. I love the second one more. So
I agree. We'll see when it comes back up because I'm going to rewatch it. But.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's been at least a decade for me. But I love both of them. The third one's the tough one. So I still like the third one. Just
great villain in the third movie, though.
Yeah, good English character actor. But
I have to say, for guys in suits, the choreography is surprisingly fluid.
Oh yeah.
They probably had limited visibility, no peripheral vision, but for them to pull off some of those moves is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm thinking like there's some tricks they use because like they spin Michelangelo on his back so that they can hit people. They must have utilized the confines of the structures.
I was thinking in particular the rooftop fight.
The Raphael one?
When they're intercutting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good stuff. That might be my second favorite scene. That whole sequence, they crash through and everything.
Yeah. Definitely holds up.
There was a used antique store in Plainfield, the town above where we all grew up, that was called like Second Time Around as well. And so I swore for years as a child that they had filmed in Plainfield. Like I didn't get it. At least.
And then burned it down.
Yeah, I was like, how did they rebuild it and stuff? So I was real impressed that someone just happened to have the same name.
Right.
So.
Hope April's renter's insurance covers ninja attacks.
Yeah.
Here's the big question: has nostalgia influenced our opinion on this movie at all? How comparing it from then to now?
That's a big question for Jeff because he's the one that watched it like now.
Yeah.
Well, why would I mean? Okay, having not seen it as a child when it in the age group that it's meant for.
Mm-hmm.
It holds up as a technical feat, but the writing, like I said, it felt like it was a kid's movie written by adults. Like there were Grapes of Wrath references. I'm like, what? What 8-year-old's gonna get this? And like debates about Gilligan's Island and moonlighting. It was definitely fun. I watched it with a 9-year-old who seemed to enjoy it. So, I had that perspective, just that out of body experience of, I wonder if this is how I would have, but compared to what they're watching nowadays anyway, it's like the whole time he was just like, this is weird.
Yeah, it's slower than stuff these days. Everything's flashy now.
Yeah.
Isn't a complaint either.
Right.
Well, it can be.
But it's slower because you
can have both.
You got dudes in suits and animatronics, and like they shot it really dark to hide all the seams in the circuitry, and
I mean, the technology is better now. We could probably have animatronics that work for the actors better now, and they wouldn't even use it. They just do the Andy Serkis motion capture.
I will say though the romantic tie between Casey Jones and April, like being cheered on by the turtles, is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a kids movie.
Yeah. Which is also odd because they're lusting for her before that.
Right.
Like, oh, she's so fucking hot. She kissed me on the cheek.
Right.
What am I going to do with my gigantic prehensile penis?
Right. And but then like Raphael's cursing at cartoons.
Ninja kicked the damn rabbit.
Right. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I'm watching it from a technical standpoint, and it's great, and the writing is okay. It feels like a lot of it was improvised, honestly. Like they probably were just riff on each other about impressions, and we'll just make the puppeteers stay on their toes.
Yeah, I'm sure the story is very solid. So I think that's probably the part that was most written. Apparently, the two screenwriters, there was a guy that did one script, and then they had the other guy almost completely rewrite it. So I don't know what they have from that first draft.
Yeah.
But they apparently never met until the premiere.
Splinter's backstory.
That happens a lot, though. With
I mean, there's always a
drafts.
pass that goes on for big studio movies. I mean, this is independent, but like apparently that first draft guy, he was working in like the engineering field and was like, you know what I want to do? I'd rather be a screenwriter, and just quit and start working for sitcoms. And like he was a big Wonder Years writer, and he ended up getting this job out of the blue, and I think killed it. But I don't know what aspects are from his part. But I think the story's solid. And if they're ad-libbing, I mean, it just kind of fits their characters anyway.
Yeah.
It's what we expected from them. So
It's great.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, well, then same question back to you guys. Like, has your nostalgia for it repainted how you perceive it now? Having enjoyed it as a cartoon flick when you were a kid, and then having gone through film school and working in the industry and looking at this now.
I mean, comparing from what I remember from when I was a kid and what I know now, like a lot went like over my head because it's like just stuff you didn't know as a kid. You just saw like Ninja Turtles fighting and doing woo-ah. And that was fun.
That's all you need.
And yeah, that's all you needed as a kid. So like always got excited for that.
Yeah.
But then now that I'm like way older and I've seen it like many times over the years, like rewatching it like into my teen years, early 20s now, blah, blah, blah. That you notice things that you didn't notice before, and then like you forget them, then re-notice, then forget them, then re-notice. And I'm pretty sure we noticed something new.
What was the thing? I know you said it's like I'm blanking.
Yeah.
Was it Shredder's?
Yeah, I forgot.
I should have written it down. There's always something new that you notice, like the guy I noticed on top of the arcade machines.
Yeah.
I think that was my thing, but you definitely said something.
I think it was it was like verbal.
Something
somebody said. I was like,
Was
you
it
know what?
Shredder's horrific
A good
death
example
in
is
the
the
back of the
Casey
garbage
Jones, where
truck.
like the Casey Jones closer to the end when there was like, "Oh, you must be a claustrophobic," and he's like, "I never even looked at a dude like that." It was like,
yes, there's
that,
a homophobic joke in
yeah,
this.
there's a homophobic
Right.
joke in there, but like that one I always like kind of more or less remember, but like
yeah, I didn't get it.
But there was
as a kid, obviously.
another one like that, and it's bugging me.
Yeah, it's something at the house, I think. I forget. Well, maybe I'll think of it. I wanted to say there has not been a time I have. There's never been a time from before Turtles. Like I've just always known it. And the cartoon came out when we were 1, basically, before Jeff was even born. So I don't know that I can.
Why got date Jeff like that?
It's we do it every time. It's my favorite franchise of anything, more than say Star Wars or Jurassic Park or anything else. So I don't.
More than Jurassic Park.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I knew of it before Jurassic Park. So
I mean, yeah, plenty of people did.
I will forgive a lot of things that they've done. I've read a ton of the comics. Like these 2 sequels that came out from Michael Bay, they're not great, but I still like them because they're turtles. So what I'm thinking, like, just because of the nostalgia, like just getting to see Donatello do something interesting or Leonardo be like wistful, it's, that's what I want. And I often relate things to Turtles if there's like 4 people, because you can always be like, that's the hothead, that's the leader that wants to keep everyone together, that's the jokester, and that's the smart one, So
I need depth from my anthropomorphized reptiles.
So I think it's like the basis for a lot of my entertainment enjoyment, actually. So this is the beginning of my love of cinema, weirdly enough.
Tristan Moore origins.
Yeah.
Cool.
What about you, Corey?
I have to say, I haven't seen it in about 20 years, if not more. I think it's lost some of its luster in that intervening time. I think, like you said, I think I like the sequel a bit better I think they improved. Not that they improved on the animatronics. The animatronics are a little more jerky in the second movie.
I think they're them, but just older.
I think the budget was higher in the
Same
second
ones.
movie for sure, and I know that they're not Bebop and Rocksteady, but I look Toka and Razar, and I think Shredder's more menacing in the second movie. I just think they improved on things a little more in the second movie exponentially. The human characters are a bit more balanced. Some of the humor in this is, I know it's sophomoric, I can forgive it that.
It's not just dumb fart jokes either. So
right, not until the third movie did we get to that stupid stuff.
Willy, yeah.
Right, the wet willy stuff. Actually, in the second movie, they do have a lot of exaggerated cartoonish sound effects, if I recall. This one
there was one in this. There was a whistle in somewhere. Or no,
yeah, you're right.
That was
during one of the fight scenes. There's a there's like almost like a slide whistle at some point.
Yeah, which
But I do think as a starting point for the Turtles, they clearly illustrate the different personalities amongst the four, and they do it in a short amount of time. Whereas in a modern day movie, they might have belabored it with a really long prequel sequence or origin story, and he does it. They do it succinctly in that one flashback sequence, if you want to call it.
Yeah, I think it's smart to have them tell April, because then they're telling us, in case you didn't know. They also just kind of assume you know, because the cartoon's so huge right now.
Right.
It's a rare occasion where you don't need a backstory.
Listen, I'm going to be honest. I was very grateful for Splinter's backstory.
Right.
Because I'm like, oh, right. That's how this rat came into his current situation.
It's simultaneously different from every other iteration it has been, and also closer to the comics and the TV show. So there have been so many different ways their origin story happens. But that's okay.
Just, your stereotypical canister of radioactive waste in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Right, and then like you were saying, in the Michael Bay one, they have the need to be a little more expository with stuff like that, which is needless in a kids' movie. You don't really need to go into those unnecessary details.
Yeah.
Kids aren't there for that. Adults don't appreciate it. It just slows down the pace.
Yeah. To that point, too, those sequels, this is the only film in which Shredder actually does any martial arts. He just kind of
barely
goes after them in the second one. He's not in the third. The fourth one, he's not in.
If I have a huge criticism about this movie and the second movie, is that he's defeated way too easily.
Yes.
And again, it's a kids' movie. They can't get too graphic with the violence.
Yeah.
I don't know. That garbage truck thing was pretty...
Well, okay, yeah. His demise is plenty explicit.
We were okay with that. We were all accomplices.
Yeah. Yeah. We all let it happen.
Horrifying.
Let me see. I have a couple of fun facts before we wrap this part up. Apparently, the kid Tatsu beats to death actually is supposed to die, and they added in after test screenings his heavy breathing, and they're like, oh, he's all right, so that's a little dark. The director Steve Barron was very interested in making it darker, and they kicked him out before post-production, which was with Sally Mink, who did all of Tarantino's films until she passed away back in 2010. So Tarantino was quoted as saying he was real excited to work with the woman that did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is crazy. But she fixed up what he had tried to do to the film. So I think we need to give a lot of credit to her for making
Release the Baron cut. Release the Baron
Is
cut.
that why the bride is in yellow in Kill Bill?
She's in a jumpsuit.
He just wanted her to be it's his violent fantasy version of April O'Neil.
Judith Haig refused to wear a jumpsuit. They tried to put her in one, and she's like, no, thanks. Which I think is part of why they kicked her out again. I have an interesting story for her. She just told this on a 30th anniversary thing recently. She was working on this movie Cadillac Man as well at the same time. And so that stars Robin Williams, and she would go and do that during the week and then sneak off and do reshoots on the weekends. And she would come back to set, and he'd be like, where are you going? You're like working every day.
What are you doing? Laugh
We're
meter.
trying to hang out, yeah. And she's like, I'm doing this movie. It's not gonna be that big. It's not. It's this comic book thing. There's like these 4 turtles, and he's like, you're doing Teenage Mutant. Oh my God, are you April? Holy shit! And so he got real excited and started like teaching her tips on how to like touch up her performance and everything. And he was a huge fan of Turtles apparently.
Can I be Krang? Oh, I'd like to be Krang.
The hero.
Yeah. Robin Williams helped personify April.
I'm furry enough. Can I be Splinter?
It's too late, I guess. What else? Pizza Hut had a huge marketing campaign, and I remember this.
And they served Domino's in the movie.
I was huge in a Pizza Hut, and yeah, they're like doing Domino's the whole time. They missed an opportunity there. I don't know what they were thinking. What was there? There was. Here's some other options for Casey and April. They were thinking of Lou Diamond Phillips, Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, River Phoenix, Johnny Depp, who we'll get into next month. And here's your favorite, Corey, Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, because they must have been coming off of Bill and Ted. They probably thought they were goofy.
You know, it's funny, Lou Diamond and Keanu sound like good choices.
Yeah. I would have, and it'll get better for the last one of April. There's Jennifer Beals, Marissa Tomei, Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman, Melanie Griffith, Sean Young, Batman Connection, Brooke Shields, and Winona Ryder. So
those are all better choices.
Keanu and Winona in this instead of like Dracula.
That married couple?
Yeah. And here's a really interesting thing. Before it got brought to New Line Cinema, which ended up distributing it, and it kind of made them because they really only had the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
That didn't make them.
I just said Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street made them.
Yeah, but they were most known for doing like this horror franchise. So this brought them up and everything.
It elevated them to another status.
Apparently, Roger Corman's company wanted to make it with 4 comedians just wearing shells on their back and painted green, and it would have been Gallagher, Sam Kinison, Bobcat Goldthwait, and Billy Crystal.
I want this movie now.
Yeah.
If it looked anything like that Fantastic Four movie he did, it would have been fantastic.
I mean, that was around the same time, right? That's 1990.
Can we talk about that, please?
Yeah, I think we will when it comes up. Baxter Stockman, who I know is also a fan favorite, like Bebop and Rocksteady, was originally in the drafts and stuff. They just, I don't know in what way. It just says he was in there somewhere.
Would he have looked like the Cronenberg Fly?
I wish. I don't know, but that's actually one of the few parts I enjoy of the Michael Bay sequels. Tyler Perry is actually pretty good. And one of the early ideas was that they were going to animate them like the cartoon and have it be like Roger Rabbit. I might have been okay with that.
That'd have been cool.
It might have worked. I think that's all the fun facts I have. So, yeah. There are 2 other anchors, and I heard it this time because I was listening for it. April is talking at one point to another anchor named May, and they reference another anchor at another station named June. So.
No Vern, though.
Oh, was that the thing? No, that wasn't the thing.
That wasn't the thing, no. Yeah, I know.
You pointed that out to me, so I wouldn't. Like, God damn it! What was the thing?
And the last story that I have that Judith Haig also mentioned during this little interview she did. Apparently, when she's being told the origin story and she's first waking up, she's like freaking out. She's like, "Why can't I dream of Harrison Ford?" She's looking straight at Jim Henson, who his creature company helped develop the animatics and everything. This is the last thing he worked on. He came to set that day when they do the introduction to April. So she's sitting there and she looks up to see the line for the first time. And Jim Henson's just like, yeah, good choice. Like she couldn't like handle having him look right at her. So,
I mean, I'd be intimidated by having Jim Henson look at me when I'm on the couch too.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, this is one of the best films, I think.
Right.
I mean, well,
it's nostalgia fuel.
Yeah.
We doing letter grades?
I mean, it's gonna be an A for me, A+ for me.
Okay.
Even with out the nostalgia, I still think it's a well done, well crafted kids film.
Yeah.
Jimmy?
I'm gonna give it a A++. Just to outdo this guy.
Jesus.
I gotta go C+ this time around.
What?
Gotta.
Wow, it's lower than what I was gonna.
Yeah, that's like I don't know. I feel like that's blasphemy.
Yeah.
You should be stoned.
We'll wait till we get to the second one. It's probably gonna be higher.
Hope so. A lot of movies are higher than that. You've given C to like everything we've seen so far.
Not true.
Did you do A for Loose Cannons?
I gave a B to Loose Cannon.
What do you think, Jeff?
B-.
He's
But
not
only-
too far off,
He
man.
doesn't have the weight
No.
of nostalgia.
It's
He did have a good
somewhere in between everyone else's and Corey's. But
Yeah.
well, right. I don't have the nostalgia thing, but also like just from a writing perspective,
Right.
I'm like, it feels like the Teamsters wrote it.
It's hard for me to take my writer's hat off when I watch this thing.
Right.
Fun personal fact. When I was in elementary school, I'd run around and cast all my friends as the Turtles and other characters, and I started writing Turtle sequels before there was even a third one. So
That's pretty good.
I think I did a little better than the Michael Bay ones, but you'll have to ask some of our young friends. So,
See, I'm very unforgiving even when it comes to kids movies because I'm like, why does Shredder have this criminal theft empire? And then I realize it's because he needs all those TVs for his lair.
Oh, Jimmy.
The biggest thing he's stolen is cable.
Oh, Jimmy, I think what the politically incorrect thing you were going to talk about maybe was when the Foot Clan show up, she says, "What am I late on my Sony payments?" Which is distinctly racist.
Oh wow.
I did not hear that.
Yeah,
I just remembered that.
Huh.
which is funny because all the boxes that they're fighting on are JVC products.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So let's move on to the second thing we were going to we also wanted to talk about two other films because this is the thing. I was going to talk about the box office. 3 movies in March were in the top 10 at the end of the year for box office. Turtles was actually the 5th biggest film of the year, domestically at least. It made $135 million. These other 2 were the 4th and the 6th biggest films of the year.
Wow.
The first one we'll talk about had come out the week prior. It is a romantic comedy that pretty much made Julia Roberts' career. It also stars Richard Gere, Jason Alexander, Ralph Bellamy in his final film role, Laura San Giacomo, and Hector Elizondo. And you'll know him from like The Princess Diaries if you're younger and stuff.
Honestly, in every Gary Marshall movie.
Yeah, he's like the wise purveyor of knowledge, you know.
Yeah.
It was Gary Marshall, one of his bigger films. I don't know what he'd done right before this, but because I kind of skimmed on looking up the facts on these other 2. But it was one of the biggest films creatively in 1990. I tried to look up like who the other possibilities were for Vivian and Lewis. It like every hot actor was thought of for Lewis. Like Alec Baldwin, you got like Val Kilmer.
Really? Because I saw that Albert Brooks had passed on. I'm like, really?
He's coming off of broadcast news, so
yeah.
Was that him?
Oof.
Isn't something big there.
Yeah.
But like anyone that had made a good movie in the last 5 years was considered. So same for Vivian. Like Michelle Pfeiffer passed. They thought of Jennifer Connelly again, Winona Ryder, but they were deemed too young. Everybody was pretty much thought of. I think they offered it to someone and she turned it down. Meg Ryan, she was offered and she turned it down.
That makes
Daniel
sense.
Day-Lewis was considered for
Sandra Bullock.
as per usual with his track record. Burt Reynolds turned it down.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to do it. Though he's quoted as saying later that he saw the sex scenes with Julia Roberts and he was like, that was one of my biggest mistakes. So, all right, Bert.
Honestly, not that salacious, those sex scenes.
Yeah, not that bad.
Because I think she has a no nudity clause, so they're kind of tame.
I appreciate when movies kind of skip around it now. We used to put this into sales that like you have to like not showcase the unsavory things, and there's a way to do it that there's a nice balance that you're not just flashing everything.
Well, now you need like intimacy coaches on set.
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, real quick, I don't know if we actually said the title. It's Pretty Woman.
Oh yeah, she is a pretty woman. So thanks, Jeff.
Right. Because we're talking about this mystery movie that
I think
everyone should know. But
it's Julia Roberts, the film.
Right. Aaron Brockovich, the early
Julia
years.
Roberts, the origin story.
When they pitched this movie, the script was a lot darker.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
In fact, part of the deal of her being his girlfriend for the week was that she'd get off cocaine.
Yeah, so
in the earlier draft.
Yeah, that would have been a little sketchy.
Yeah. So that I guess this has more of a fairy tale element to it than, even though she's the hooker with the heart of gold. In the earlier drafts, it was almost like a Paul Schrader movie.
Yeah.
I think
actually like that aspect. It's a little weird at the ending when he like goes up the balcony and it's supposed to feel like Cinderella and everything.
I like that part. Like they played up the Cinderella bit, and the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, could this movie be done today? Like they couldn't use the word hooker. Like they say that a lot. Like I figured he would have at least like been a little bit more sensitive about it.
Also, it's Buena Vista, which means it's Disney.
Yeah.
So they definitely wouldn't do this today.
Well, I also thought it was funny how like both 2 out of the 3 movies that we're talking about were eventually turned into musicals. There has yet to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles musical, but we'll get to that point.
Hunt for Red October is.
Oh, sorry. There was
I
another
know. We're trying to do 2 months at once, so we got.
Anyway,
won't give away our secrets. We're gonna change wardrobes between this. We're like Cher.
I screwed everything up. Jimmy's still gonna have the mask on though.
Was I supposed to take this off?
No, it's okay.
All right.
Raphael today.
I'm Raphael forever.
God.
But anyway, yeah. So I'm like, could this movie get made today? And I don't know. Like, what do you guys think?
It's odd because this is R-rated, but it's a soft R.
Yeah, I think it could be done. It's just different things would happen. Like the hooker thing, I don't think is that big of a deal.
I think they would gender swap it today.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That would be interesting, actually.
I could see a Channing Tatum, maybe.
Yeah.
In the male role.
Has that been rumored, or are you just doing this off the top of your head?
I'm just thinking because that Splash remake was in the works for a couple of years with Channing Tatum as the merman. So.
Yeah, I actually like that though. And then you'd have who as the they try to make it funny though, so they'd have like Kristen Wiig,
like Emma Stone or something.
I think we'll make it full circle. Is you just have Laura de Giacomo, whatever her
Laura San Giacomo.
Kit, have Kit play the Richard Gere character.
I mean, I'd love that.
Like it's a spiritual sequel.
Yeah. She did make it. They passed down some money. Vivian kept touch with her.
Right.
Let's talk about
the actual movie.
George Costanza. How sleazy is he?
He's terrific in the movie. He's terrific.
Yeah.
So sleaze.
He was great.
I didn't realize his wife was in. Like, I didn't realize that woman was his wife until rewatching it this time. Like, I had been thinking he was just an asshole, single friend of Richard Gere's. And he's got a wife, too. It's like a second
layer of sleaze to him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And how much he's actually hitting on her. He's just like, yeah, maybe we can fuck sometime. So,
very traumatized. Because, like, the TV.
That montage scene is up there with one of the iconic montages of the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
They parodied in Dumb and Dumber.
They did, didn't they?
I think actually, and I'm not a huge Julia Roberts fan, I think she is effervescent in this. This is probably one of her best roles.
It's generous of you.
Yes. And
I know how much you hate her, so.
I really don't like her at all. And Richard Gere is usually pretty much of a stiff, and he's a straight man in this, but they exhibit really good chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Gary Marshall actually said Richard Gere was trying to, like, come on too strong, And Gary Marshall's like, look, there are two moving parts in this. One is revolving around everywhere, and one of them stays motionless. Which one do you think you are?
Right.
And so there's this like
he exhibits like a Cary Grant kind of suaveness.
Yeah, he just like watches her exude charm and get excited about things, and that makes it more romantic because it helps you fall in love with her too.
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird because he could have played it very aloof
Mm-hmm.
with his stillness, but you can still tell that he's even for a rich magnate, he's very magnanimous.
I know it's supposed to be a Cinderella story, but I was getting a lot more My Fair Lady.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing.
This spending shopaholic montage, for instance.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's giving her finishing lessons, like a modern day. Like she's all that. Did that later.
Yeah, and the polo match.
They even go to the horse race at the end. That's part of My Fair Lady.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
The polo.
Which is all basically an offshoot of Pygmalion.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of Pygmalion. I wonder, I didn't see that in the trivia, but I assume a lot of people have also felt that way.
Right.
So I'm sure.
And probably repopularized that Roy Orbison song.
Yes. Yeah, it shot to the top of the charts again.
Right.
I actually really liked this time around the Ralph Bellamy stuff. He's the executive that Richard Gere is trying to sway to partner with them. Like they're going to absorb his company. And it's kind of an interesting dynamic because you get all these hints that he hates how his father treated him. And there's that handshake at the end where they understand each other. And Ralph Bellamy knew his father, so he knows this is kind of like, I'm approving of you, son. There is something you did well. You would honor your father if he were still alive, It's kind of a nice touch, and it gives a different aspect to this film that isn't just like a romantic comedy. I don't know. I just liked all those things, and it's not like heavy on one side or the other. Julia Roberts is brought to the discussions, and there's some cute stuff with like how she deals with the silverware and everything, and brings her own ketchup and stuff. So it was cute, but it was also the serious stuff wasn't too heavy-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not dealing with the cocaine.
Yeah.
Right.
Even the scene where she rejects Jason Alexander could have gone a lot differently, especially in somebody who wasn't as. I think his stature helps that it makes him more weaselly. If he was a bigger guy and wasn't as diminutive, you might have feared for her life.
Yeah, I mean, I do anyway, but I'm surprised Gere didn't throw him off the balcony, just like murder.
Oh yeah,
right.
I mean, well,
throw him into a garbage truck like Shredder.
Right.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was about to, and then like you could see like he's about to throw him through the wall, and then realized, wait, no, this is a set piece, and like there's a little bit of hesitation there. He got like way too into it, and it was great.
Yeah. I don't know. I kept looking over at Jimmy throughout the film. He was grinning ear to ear.
He was
it was good. It was like unusually charming.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best, but I think
it was great.
Yeah,
it was like.
I mean, like, it came out when I was a kid, so like, I had no ambition to see a romantic movie because like, I was a boy.
Jimmy has enough romance in his life. He doesn't need.
It's true.
Yeah, no, like it's all ninjas and Power Rangers and like.
I mean, look at this two-shot right now. Speaking of romance.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like,
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, this was the first time I'd seen the movie.
Ah.
So I'm like at a point where I can actually appreciate romantic comedies.
Sure.
And like the themes and through lines here, which we got to talk about the through line between all these movies anyway. But I don't know. I enjoyed it.
What would you give it letter grade?
Oh, we're into letter grades already? I thought we were
there's not much else to talk about really, and the main focus was Turtles. So
I mean, we're not going to talk about the fact that Richard Gere composed that piece that he played in the in the ballroom when he's actually playing the piano, and he wrote that piece.
No way. This
is a piece of trivia I didn't know.
Yeah. Fun fact.
I'm glad you did some research because
right. And also, I'm pretty sure the that scene where he's walking barefoot in the park is probably what spurred his Buddhist following.
Starting there.
Oh yeah, that was the
I
moment.
don't know when he met the
That was
Dalai
it.
Lama.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. But
I like that.
But yeah, no, the piano thing's true.
So cool.
But and also that necklace that she wore to the opera
Mm-hmm.
was actually
That much money?
$dollars. Yeah, and there was constantly like a security guard from the jewelry store standing behind Gary Marshall with a gun. Whenever they were filming with it.
Gary Marshall could have died.
Honestly, probably one of Gary Marshall's best directed movies.
Probably, yeah.
I would probably give it a B.
I would give it a B as well.
I mean, this one I'm going to give an A minus.
Nice.
I give it an A.
Nice. You
Yeah,
guys
because, like,
it more
I
than
also-
me?
I also really like the theme too, like
Uh-huh.
the play. It's one of the better, musical themes from a romantic comedy that I can remember. But it's, yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it.
It's a
Apparently
movie that
Gary-
definitely lives or dies on the casting.
Yeah, definitely. But
Apparently,
Which is weird because then they reunited for Runaway Bride, which we'll talk about way down the line, but
yeah,
not nearly as good.
not nearly. I liked it. I actually saw it first. I only saw Pretty Woman about 5 years ago for the first time.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, I've seen it like 4 times since.
You love
It's
it.
been on TV, and I actually enjoy it. So, and then I had to show Jimmy. So, apparently, Gear's been a Buddhist since like '78 or so. He's been into this for a while, so he could have put that into the aspect of his acting.
So what's the last movie we want to talk about here?
So earlier in the month, there was a big film that showcased what I had thought I remembered to be a lot of action, but it is a little bit of a slow-paced spoiler based on the novel, The Hunt for Red October. It is the same title. It stars Alec Baldwin as Jack Ryan, and this is a showcase for this series that Jack Ryan's in. It's a young version. Like he would go on to become like defense secretary and president, I think, in the novels. But this is like earlier in his career, so he's kind of wet behind the ears. They don't know where.
Strangely, though, by this point, since this is the first movie we're introduced to him, he's already got a wife and kid.
Yeah, barely. Gates McFadden has like one line. But the whole premise is that they notice that there's some shifting in the Russian Navy. It takes place in 1984. And there's this general, this famed general of the military that Sean Connery plays. And he decides he wants to defect. And he goes about it very calmly, so not to arouse suspicion. And
We're not sure, though.
Right. We're not totally sure. We know as an audience, because he kind of says it towards the beginning, that at least he wants to defect, and there are a team of commanders under his leadership that want to defect with him, including one played by Sam Neill. And Jack Ryan kind of figures out that this might be the case because of the date that it's happening on is the 1-year anniversary of his wife's death. And knowing what was happening in Russia, they could put 2 and 2 together and assume possibly that he's bitter about what has happened to his life and wants to defect because of that. And it would be a good fuck you to steal their big new sub that has this new technology, this Caterpillar
Drive.
Caterpillar Drive.
Caterpillar Drive.
Which is totally
allows
made
the
up.
sub to run.
Not
really
No. Totally made up.
Yes,
They're real.
Totally made up.
Because at the beginning of the movie, it clearly states an incident that happened in 1984.
It may or may not have happened.
Yeah,
May have
or
never
not
happened.
You see,
Yeah.
they can't reveal all the facts, but maybe.
Yeah,
Just
and
maybe.
I
No.
bet even if this wasn't real and the novel didn't take from real events, I could see them seeing the Caterpillar Drive and be like, "Can we make that? Can we?"
Like, is that possible?
that?
Is that a thing that we
Yeah.
do? Is that something that's still hush hush?
Yeah. So he goes to his superior, played by James Earl Jones, and tells him that this is a possibility. And James Earl Jones brings him to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they're like, "You're the guy. Go find it." So this is a thing I like about the movie. You liked this in something like Bridge of Spies, where there's like a little tick. He keeps muttering to himself, like, "I could have just done this in a memo. I could have."
Yeah, I was gonna say Jack Ryan to me, which differentiates him from the other spies in the espionage genre. He's always the reluctant hero.
Yeah.
He's always thrust into circumstances that are well beyond his capabilities, above his pay grade. Every time even in like Sum of All Fears, which might be my favorite Jack Ryan movie, come to think of it.
Interesting. It's the only other one I've seen.
He again, he's not necessarily the action hero, and like you said, you thought this was more action oriented. It's much more of a psychological chess game between the American Navy and the Russian fleet.
Which you and I were talking about. It's a little slow. It takes its time getting.
It's very leisurely.
I like Sean Connery's performance the most, but I agree it takes a bit too long to get there. Like, you just want him to get into this cat and mouse game, and there's a lot of moving pieces.
Well, the kind of the way that it's paced, kind of like it feels like to me like it works out, because like it starts off slow. They're slowly getting the information, and then you get an aha moment, but they're like, wait, no, hold up, we need to go look further into this. And just as they figure it out, all of a sudden it happened.
Shit
hits
the fan.
Shit hits the fan. Like, it's perpetually, like, as it's getting worse, like, you notice, like, those bits happen quicker.
Yeah.
Like, because he's getting closer and closer and closer to the climax or the deadline or whatever. So, like, the pacing and, like,
yeah, it's
like,
not until, like,
kind of builds into it.
It's not until the 40-minute mark,
like the aha moment.
Yeah, I do admire that, actually. And
it's not until the 40-minute mark where they give him the 3 days deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
by that point, you're invested. But John McTiernan did something smart with this movie, which he also did. I pointed this out to you before. He did in 13th Warrior, which is, at one point in the conversation with the political officer, it goes from being subtitled to English, and it's a subtle transition. And it could be seen as pandering, but I think it actually makes the threat more universal. And you don't have to suffer through Sean Connery trying to do a Soviet accent the whole movie.
Subtitled the whole time, but they at least appreciate that these people are not English.
Right, like in K-19, when you're watching K-19, you're like, Liam Neeson, Harrison Ford playing Russians? I don't know.
Yeah, and they never
don't
Russian.
Quite fit.
Yeah.
But Sam Neill is very good. Actually, I forgot Tim Curry was in it until I realized.
Right.
Oh, he was a red herring.
A rare good character.
Right.
Tim Curry.
Like thought Tim Curry was like the spy or the traitor on board.
Yeah,
usually would be.
Right.
But like no, he just was just a happy-go-lucky idiot that loved the Soviet Union.
He was the villain in another naval film, though.
Which one?
McHale's Navy.
Oh, right, Jesus.
Right. This is like, for me, this is like a trial run for those Tom Clancy adaptations. I don't think it's bad. I think it's a little overrated, though. I think they got the pacing better with the next two with Harrison Ford, ironically enough.
Did you know that they tried to offer to Harrison Ford and he like kind of turned it down at first, and so they went with their second choice, Alec Baldwin, and he was cheaper anyway, or they couldn't afford him, maybe, I can't remember. But then Alec Baldwin, becoming popular, was like, well, I'd like more money for the sequel, and they're like, with that kind of money we can get Harrison Ford, so they did.
Right.
So that's why Harrison
actually
Ford
worked out.
I think I've heard so. I need to see these two films, and hopefully we will for this podcast. But this is the one I'd seen before, and like I said, I've seen Sum of All Fears. Have you seen all the Jack Ryan movies?
I actually don't know.
It's funny, actually. Kevin Costner was also considered for Jack Ryan, and he turned it down to go do Dances with Wolves. Which is funny because he comes back as like the James Earl Jones character, kind of in Shadow Recruit.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. So he ended up being in Jack Ryan, just not as him.
It's weird because we were talking about how the Turtles do a good job of giving like succinct origin story to each of the characters. In this, they don't quite spoon feed you as to the relationship between everybody. Like him and Cabot have a long running relationship in the book series, and this is just you have to kind of assume that.
Which is good, yeah. I like when movies just let you understand relationships.
Although they do, in a way, they do lay things out for the layman, like the Caterpillar Drive conversation with Jeffrey Jones, because they're talking a lot of technical jargon. And he's like, "Are you following what I'm saying?" He's like, "Not exactly."
Yeah. Well, I love. There was something I watched recently that wasn't this, and they were like explaining something. And they're like, "You know, I'm a scientist as well. I know what you're talking about, but please do go on." It's like I hate when that happens, but like they didn't do that with Jeffrey Jones. He like is able to just explain it because he knows better, and you trust that. They say he's the expert without him saying it himself.
Yeah.
So,
and Jan de Bont's cinematography is great. There's a lot of lens flare, but not to the point of like J.J. Abrams' overload.
Yeah, I didn't notice this until I was reading it, but they made a point of having the subs monochromatically one color each, so you know which sub they're on now, or boat. Like Scott Glenn's ship, Searching for Him, is I think red, and then even if it's red hued without like just being red, the red outcome itself is blue all the time. I forget exactly which it is. I know I'm saying it wrong, but like then you can tell, like when we're seeing Stellan Skarsgård up close, it's not somewhere else in the Red October, you know. That actually I like. I noticed this time when they're with Stellan Skarsgård on that other sub, they kind of only focus on him and go around him almost like a fisheye lens.
Yeah.
So
it also feels like tighter. Like maybe the sub that he's in is maybe smaller.
Yeah.
So like it feels like a different sub too.
Well, you see that shootout later. This sub is like an aircraft carrier size, which I don't. Is that even possible?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Subs can get pretty big.
Okay.
Well, they talk about this one being the biggest in the fleet.
Yeah.
Early on.
Maybe not aircraft carrier size, but like big, like pretty damn big.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some beastly submarines out there. It's like, if you look it up, you'll be like, they made them that big?
Yeah,
you could hide that much underwater?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the ocean's large too.
Yeah, I know that, but like, you know.
I mean, I like this for all the technicalities that they put into it, like the referential trenches that they're going through, the passes, that whole sequence where the guy's navigating to test, because Sean Connery has to put up the facade that they're just testing. So he's playing along and he almost doesn't care.
Yeah.
And he's like fucking with his crew members just to see if the ship could do what it is meant to do.
We're doing war games.
Yeah, whatever. Here's a fun fact. Klaus Maria Brandauer, who was the supporting actor nominee for Out of Africa, he was originally cast as Ramius. So it was more of a Das Boot type feel.
Das Boot's fantastic.
Especially with McTiernan, like, probably being a fan of that, trying to cast like more actual people that could do a Russian accent. But he dropped out for scheduling reasons. And so he even filmed a bit, so that jacked up the budget, but he suggested Sean Connery, and Sean Connery actually turned it down at first because he's like, this wouldn't make sense. The Navy is no longer impressive with the USSR. And he had been faxed the script, and they lost the first page where it says this is 1984 when the Navy is still pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So he didn't get the whole movie because he's missing the first page.
And like his
you
like
saying that there's a Bond connection between those two.
Just like
yeah. What's the Bond connection?
Klaus Maria Brandauer was the villain in Never Say Never Again.
Yeah, with Sean Connery a few years ago. That's why he knows.
So maybe that's why he suggested it.
That is why, yeah. The funniest part of this, there's this story about how his toupee cost $20,000.
It looks good.
Here's the reason. He came to set and decided that he wanted his hair to be tied back into a ponytail.
That's like Medicine Man?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's what he wanted. So he insisted on this. He had the hair and makeup people do this. Everyone's like, no, Sean, please don't do that. He was like,
Nobody in the Navy would have their hair like that.
Especially the Russian Navy.
Yeah, no.
It's like, I want to feel fancy.
Yeah, so he goes and he films like key scenes. I don't know which ones. I'm assuming like the big speech in the beginning, maybe. And he's doing this, and they like Jan de Bomp's like laughing at the dailies. She's like, I can't handle this. We cannot go on with this. And they started making fun of him. The whole crew's like calling him names and stuff. And it got to a point where he's like, fine, we'll cut the tail. And they go back and they had to reshoot everything. So that's why it's $20,000.
Right.
What a jerk. He's so good in it though. I think this.
He's very good.
This
Very
is
well
tough.
cast.
I don't know what my favorite Sean Connery film is, because if you're including the Bond films, it's going to be one of them probably.
The Untouchables is up there.
Yeah, and I saw that much later, very recently. I saw Hunt for Red October when I was like 10.
Now we should say Jeff's been oddly silent. I'm assuming he didn't see it.
I missed the memo on that one.
I told him, because we had to watch 5 films in like a week, not to worry about this. So I apologize for all the spoilers for you.
No, that's fine. I'd seen it. I just don't remember any of it. So it wasn't technically a spoiler. I just don't have any relevant commentary.
Well, do you remember liking it? Because this is the
I
thing.
remember liking it. I was just like, hey, Sean Connery and subs. And I mean, I don't know as much of the mythology and the book series and everything, but I remember enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just listening to you guys recount the tale of the film, because I did not watch that one this time. And
what would you have given it if you barely remember?
From what I remember, a solid B.
Yeah.
I would go B-. I think the pacing needed to be tightened up a little bit. A little tauter, and it would have been superb.
Yeah, I still think it's a B+ though. It's a very solid film. I agree with the slow pacing, but I enjoy it because I like that kind of film. And there's a lot of things that make Alec Baldwin's Jack Ryan, I still think, the best. I haven't seen those Harrison Ford ones, so I don't know yet. But
and you've never seen the TV series.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the Chris Pine one.
Hmm.
Not that everyone seems to forget that happened.
It's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Ryan, the TV show, also feels like they're just doing Homeland 24 again. Because I think it's those showrunners too. I don't remember. But
it's a trend.
It's the modern one, and that's actually where the novels kind of go anyway. Because of what was happening in real life, he started going towards the Middle East. So these 80s Cold War films, I think, are more interesting, and the novels to me. But that's neither here nor there. Here's a fun fact, because McTiernan did Die Hard. He used the same teddy bear that McClane has as the teddy bear that's in the plane at the end.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is there any teddy bear in Predator?
Yeah. Get this out of here. I can't do it. I'm not going to do accents anymore.
So what grade would you give it, Jimmy?
A. I mean,
he loves these kind of movies.
I love these kinds of movies. This is my jam. Even if it's like moderately bad, I'll be like, I still enjoyed it.
Can we do another segment one day where Jimmy just analyzes and rates the military tech in the movies that we watch?
Oh, no.
Yes.
No.
This would go on for another half hour.
No. Like, it only seems likely to you guys because I'm only spewing out the bits that I know. I don't know everything. So, like.
So I briefly. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, like, you know. It's limited knowledge, man.
Bated breath.
Like, I admit, sure, I nerd out a bit when it comes to that stuff.
You're more into guns specifically. So if there's a movie like Ghost in the Darkness, you could tell us the history of that.
Well, if it's a
Lord of War, he'd have so much to
like Zulu. You were telling me a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. It's just weird, like because like nobody thinks about like the utility of a uniform and like how it works. Like there was like a ergonomics to it, so like placement was important for certain pockets and things. So like it's like if it's a historical war film, like you kind of dig that too.
Of, his brass, Sean Connery. that accurate?
His brass
Yeah.
was very impressive.
What'd you think of Alec Baldwin's chest hair? Speaking of
It was
impressive,
very impressive. No,
Turn
that
around,
too.
Fred Thompson.
it looked like a Brillo pad.
Yeah, no, we could just do it like Poster Boy, but just Jimmy analyzing screenshots of.
Speaking of
People's-
poster
Speaking of which,
boy,
we're going to go into that. I want to talk about the box office real quick.
That's
So,
fine. Sorry.
So the Hunt for Red October debuted with $17 million, which was pretty good. I mentioned earlier about TMNT, but it finished with $120 million, so that's sixth best for the year. Number 2 was Still Driving Miss Daisy. That stuck around throughout like May. It was like movies back then just lasted forever.
well, they're gonna now too.
Wait, what?
Tenet will be around for a while.
Yeah, well, this is they're unprecedented times. It stayed number 1 until Pretty Woman knocked it out in 2 weeks with $11 million.
I mean, that was a tough act to follow.
Yeah, nothing really came out between that was going to challenge it. Pretty Woman ended with $178 million domestic, which puts it in 4th place for the year. It was number 1 that week, and then the next week TMNT came in first. Like I mentioned, is the biggest March opening of all time at that point. Pretty Woman actually made more money in its second weekend, that same weekend, with $12 million. So it actually moved up, and would later, by May, they stayed in the top 2 through April, and then the last week of April they swapped again. Pretty Woman stayed in first until end of May. And do you want to know what unseated it? The top 2 changed to Bird on a Wire and Cadillac Man, the Judith Haig movie she did with Robin Williams.
Wow.
So these 2, she was in 2 movies in the top 4 at that point.
And she was never heard from again.
She did nothing else. So yeah, let's get into our favorite segment, Poster Boy. I'm gonna share the screen now. So remember, you have to describe what you're seeing, Jeff.
Okay.
For the listeners.
I'm not going to look in case you accidentally have a file name up. Okay.
No, don't worry. I've done it. What is this? Episode 3. I just do episode 3 and 4 or whatever now.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking at, looks like Rutger Hauer dressed as Dick Van Dyke on vacation.
There's no ottoman for him to fall over now.
He's spinning a katana and slicing the guns of everyone who's pointing them at him. It's like there's a Mexican standoff, and he brought a knife to a gunfight and won.
So here's an aspect I want to know about this. What is he wearing specifically?
He's wearing a red button-down shirt, gray pants, and a fishing vest, which I'm guessing has something to do with the plot.
Why do you think he looks so cool, though?
Because
you're hinting.
He's like trying to like. No, I don't.
He's leading the witness, sir.
Okay.
I think he's Rutger Hauer's got one last point to make before he enters retirement.
Okay.
Just goes fishing.
Why does he look older in this poster, by the way, than he does 10 years from then?
I don't know. Time travel.
Old in the movie.
Looks like an old poster. Okay, so do I need to get the name now?
Yeah, try this, and then I'll show you this tagline.
Gone Fishing.
Okay, that is a movie that comes later with Donald Glover and Joe Pesci.
Unfortunately, we'll have to talk about that sometime.
All right, hang on.
Here's the tagline. It's gonna give it away, though.
I mean, you kind of left the title down there.
Do you want me to keep going? I haven't looked at the title, so I'm literally I didn't look at the credits or anything.
I gotta look at I gotta do the credits sometimes too. So.
He may be blind, but he don't need no dog.
Oh God, I forgot that was the tagline.
Yeah.
What?
You're the man now, dog.
Is this like a proto Daredevil?
Actually,
he's not far off, you know.
Yeah. What do you think the plot is?
The plot is a blind man, just wants to go on vacation and keeps getting assaulted by cartel members who keep ruining his fishing trip. And he's just, you know what, I got this katana for cleaning and gutting fish, and I'm just gonna use it on y'all.
For some really big fish.
Just
Well,
action hijinks ensue. I honestly,
What would you call it?
I'd call it. Hang on. Seeing Eye. I don't know. Wait. Eye of the Beholder.
Oh, that is also a movie later. Actually, I think that's 2000. All right, I'll give it
Blind
to you.
Fury.
It's down there.
What? No, I swear to God, I didn't look
It's
at
honestly
it.
down there.
I swear to God, I did not look at it.
I'll give it to
his
you.
head was
I get
down when he revealed it, so he didn't
Holy
see.
shit.
There's video proof.
I actually, wow, okay.
That's nice. Good timing that I didn't do it right before you said it. So yeah, Blind Fury. I have not seen this, but Corey, again, I assume has.
I have.
So what is actually the plot?
All right, so Rutger Hauer plays a Vietnam vet who loses his sight in the war. When he comes back to the States years later, he goes to meet one of his army buddies, Terry O'Quinn, who's been kidnapped. And him and Terry O'Quinn's son go on a cross-country trip to find out why he was kidnapped. And along the way, hijinks ensue from the kidnappers. And it's actually an American remake of the Zatoichi Blind Swordsman movies.
Really?
Yes.
Do you like it? Because this sounds great to me.
It's very tongue-in-cheek.
Fine, I like you.
So you're okay with that?
Sounds fantastic.
The child sidekick is not a great actor. So he kind of takes the shine off a little bit. But Rutger Hauer's really good.
Yeah.
The choreography is really well done. So yeah, it's a fun film.
Okay, we gotta add this to our Netflix or something. So that sounds good.
If we gotta see a real samurai flick before or after it, just to balance it out.
Well, don't you have Zatoichi?
I may have a Zatoichi movie, or like the guy that plays Zatoichi in another movie. So I have like a weird collection or two
I think
came in like
have something over here.
Yeah, I have something over there.
Yeah, there's something we can watch. So anyway, I guess we don't necessarily have to wrap this up, but there are a couple other films that came out. I don't know if you want to highlight them, Corey.
Yeah, there's actually a lot came out from March, but I'll condense it down to a few. The Handmaid's Tale. There was a film adaptation. There was also a film adaptation of Lord of the Flies. 2 books that I'm assuming all of us had to read in high school or college.
Yeah.
And House Party came out. The Kid and Play film.
Classic.
Yeah. Fun film. One of the several Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan collaborations. Joe versus the Volcano.
Is this the first one they do?
Was Sleepless in Seattle before or after this?
94. We're definitely talking about
Okay,
that.
so this is the first.
Yeah. So it's that, then Sleepless, then they do You've Got Mail. There's only 3.
Yeah.
Aren't there? Yeah.
He's in Ithaca in a cameo, so technically she directed it.
They're friends still or whatever.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to do this, but with those 3 massive films, we had to pare it down a little bit. Because I was excited. I've never seen this one.
And it's a really good movie.
Yeah. So maybe we can add that to the list to watch.
There was also The Forbidden Dance, which was Canon trying to capitalize on the Lambada craze.
Which is funny because it comes out. This is what comes out in between Hunt for Red October and Pretty Woman. 2 movies about Lambada, both The Forbidden Dance and one called
It was a huge
Lambada.
dance back then.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this, Jeff, but with our drunken, hazy days, that was one of our bad movie nights.
Really?
Yeah, we all watched Lambada.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember it. It is horrible.
That might have been Vay's night.
It was definitely one of the. It was not the Vay's night, but it was.
I'm pretty sure the Vase Night was
Anyway.
the Zardoz night.
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
Sean Connery.
Yeah.
There was Bad Influence with James Spader and Rob Lowe, which kind of got a little overshadowed by the sex tape with Rob Lowe.
And
the
we're going
underage
to
girl.
talk about in a minute the Oscar dance that he did with Snow White.
Right, which is deemed one of the worst Oscar moments of all time.
Yeah, apparently.
Watch on YouTube, you'll see why.
Careers. Yeah.
In fact, Rob Lowe was recently on Joe Rogan talking about, and he said that he saw director Barry Levinson in the audience mouth as it happened. Shock to the System, which is a black comedy with Michael Caine killing the competition in his law firm. It's a good movie.
Sounds great. It's really interesting kind of premise. Like he's just going home and he's angry one day, and an itinerant guy is on the train's platform, and he like accidentally pushes him, and he gets a thrill out of killing someone.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
There's Opportunity Knocks, which is a starring vehicle for Dana Carvey playing a grifter. It's a mediocre movie, but if you're really into Dana Carvey doing shtick and a lot of stream of consciousness impressions, you'll like it. Of course, they're dated now, so there's a lot of George Bush. A lot of his SNL impersonations get intermelded into the movie. There's Blue Steel, which is Catherine Bigelow's crime thriller about Jamie Lee Curtis plays a cop who's a rookie on the force who's going after a serial killer played by Ron Silver, who she happens to be romantically involved with. And there was one that we were actually debating on whether it was going to be in poster boy, but the poster was a little too obvious, which was Nuns on the Run, a Jonathan Lynn directed film with Robbie Coltrane and Eric Idle, and it's a one-joke premise. They're on the lam, and they're dressed as nuns. That's the premise. That's the joke.
Yep.
And, that was about it.
So I wanted to briefly talk about, because I did the Grammys last episode, this month brings us the Oscars from '89. And there's not too much to talk about, but I can bring you the brief, like, hot points or whatever. I don't know what I was trying to say there.
Hot takes.
Yeah, sure. We just mentioned Billy Crystal was almost in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He hosts for the first time this 62nd Academy Awards. It was the idea of the president to make up for Rob Lowe's debacle. They wanted something fresh, easy, breezy, like gonna take care of the audience, kind of like an old Bob Hope mentality. And then he ended up doing it like 8 more times, I think.
He's probably the most prolific Oscar host.
After Bob Hope.
Yeah.
Bob Hope did it like 30 times, and he did it 9, I think.
Yeah.
But he was always good throughout the 90s, and then he had an ill-advised 2012 Oscar hosting. So let me see if you guys have seen these films. These are the 5 Best Picture nominees. Born on the 4th of July, which also won Oliver Stone Best Director. Dead Poets Society, the Robin Williams teacher film. Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, where he builds that field in Iowa. In fact, this month was supposed to see the Yankees play the White Sox there, which would have been the first time professional baseball would have ever been played in Iowa. They had to scrap it, of course, for everything else. My Left Foot, which is about Christy Brown. Daniel Day-Lewis won Best Actor for the first time of his 3 Best Actor awards. And Brenda Fricker won Best Supporting Actress. And then the 5th film, which won, was Driving Miss Daisy. So I've seen Daisy and Dead Poets Society and Field of Dreams.
Whereas Jimmy calls it The Help.
I mean, that's what I thought you guys were talking about when you're talking about The Help, because I was half paying attention. I was like, is that? No, I've seen Driving Miss Daisy.
I can get it someday.
I could screech.
Driving Ozzie Davis.
That and Field of Dreams, and I'm not entirely sure with.
Born on the 4th of July.
Or my
I think Born on the 4th of July I might have seen chunks of, but never from beginning to end, so I won't count it.
It's the next one I gotta watch in my Oliver Stone collection, so I'm gonna watch it soon. The other one I didn't mention, supporting actor, was Denzel Washington's first award for Glory, which also just came back to Netflix. I would recommend seeing if you haven't. It's very good.
Stellar movie.
The screenplays went to Dead Poets Society and Driving Miss Daisy. Foreign film I only bring up because I actually just saw it on the drive-in with Rebecca, the Cinema Paradiso. Very good film. It's a love letter to making to playing films, to being like the projectionist,
to exhibiting films.
Yeah, how they transport us to another place and time and everything. Very, very nice movie. You'll all like this. Akira Kurosawa got the honorary award that year. And the big thing was Driving Miss Daisy won 4 awards, Glory won 3, Little Mermaid won 2, and also great genre films, The Abyss, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. They almost had Harrison Ford and Sean Connery reunite the next year for Red October.
Right.
And then Batman got a technical award as well. So
Last
here's your Oscars 1990. So.
Cool.
Oh, picks of the month. You guys want to do that as we close out?
Sure.
My pick of the month would probably be Bad Education. I finally caught up with it.
It's a huge film.
Yeah. HBO premiere film, which I think played at a few film festivals. It has a very election feel, but it's not as risque as Election. But honestly, one of Hugh Jackman's best performances, which is saying a lot. But yeah, the satirical aspects of it are really on point. It was great. Probably my favorite movie of the year so far.
Wow. It's pretty good. Do you have anything, Jimmy?
For the month?
Yeah, you pretty much watched these movies we did for
the podcast. I'm gonna have to go with like Miami Blues. One, I don't know if that was.
We're gonna be talking about that next month. So.
Damn it, Jimmy!
But if that's your favorite pick, we'll talk about it.
Like legitimately, we could talk about it next month. But I'm just saying, like, surprisingly good movie. Like caught me off guard, and I was expecting something else.
Yeah.
And like,
I'm very excited to hear his thoughts on this. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you have?
Well, I finally bit the bullet and got HBO Max, so I've been obsessed with Westworld the last week or so.
Through season 1.
So I'm not quite done with season 1, and if you spoil anything, I will murder you.
Season 1 is wonderful. Season 2 drags like a cone.
There's 4 seasons so far.
There's only 3 so far. I just finished 3 because that came out like the day everything shut down in America. I love it. I hate to love it because it's just so slow.
Yeah.
You like didn't know.
Probably would have been better as a one season.
So perfect that first season. So.
All right. Well, I'll enjoy it then.
Yeah, I will.
What about you, Tristan?
I will talk about that with you later.
Yes.
I would like to say this is actually something I watched with Jeff. This movie that we had meant to see like 10 years ago. It won the best foreign film at the Oscars in 2010. It's called Departures. And I didn't look up all the actors or anything, but it was from Japan. And it's about a man who is a cellist in an orchestra that ends up losing its funding. So he goes back to his hometown. And he and his girlfriend are just like, I don't know what to do. Just look for a job. I'll look for something. And he finds in the paper Departures. And he's like, okay, what is this? Like, you're leading people to where they're going? Like, is it a tour guide or something?
Like a travel agent.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. So he goes, and it's kind of like awkward comedy at first, but it's about being a funeral director, which was kind of taboo until very recently in Japan. They often would have the funerals inside the home, only the family. No one would ever take care of the body or anything. You would, like, bury them yourself, I think. I didn't
like you showed up, you cleaned and dressed them like in front of the family, which is got to be like one of the most nerve-wracking experiences on the planet, I imagine.
Yeah, so this is what he ends up learning how to do from an older funeral director. And it's like, weirdly, the community hates them for doing this because it's
because they're touching dead people.
It's a cultural thing in Japan. Like they're contaminated by, like, one aspect is they're contaminated by death. Like they're like,
they caught the dead.
Yeah, pretty much. So like they're associated with the dead, and like that's not good, not good vibes, not good chi, not good feng shui, whatever you want to think of, like in their concept. Like it's just like you're dealing with death. Like why?
Yeah.
So like that's taboo, and so much so that like people who are their families that are generationally stuck or have been generationally stuck as like funeral directors, or like service providers, because like the job was the same for
NK agent
years.
It's actually funny you mention that, because they actually do the same kind of thing that they do in Pretty Woman, where Richard Gere's father is kind of absent for him. This guy who becomes a funeral director, he's like our age, and the older funeral director fills in for his absent father. His father left him when he was like 10, and so he discovers like a way to cope with that by becoming a funeral director himself and learning from this man who was his father's age. So
yeah, I mean, we could honestly do a whole podcast on this movie.
It's an incredible film.
Yeah, it's great.
Beautiful cinematography, poignant story. I loved it. So very worthwhile.
And it was also the reason we wanted to watch it 10 years ago was because we were like halfway through 6 Feet Under. And so it was very like along the same vein.
Thematic, yeah.
So
definitely recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
cool.
But yeah, next month we're gonna be talking about Miami Blues, like Jimmy previewed, and Crybaby. Johnny Depp.
Oh, that was for next month? Because I watched that instead of Hunt for Red October.
That's fine. I'd say we're compacting. We're not telling anybody where we're going to change our shirts.
Oh, fine.
All right.
You can cut this out later. Snip, snips. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Yes, we have.
Comment below.
We have a Twitter. We have our podcast website. We have a Facebook page.
Oh, we have too many things.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're not even popular yet.
I'll do better next. We're never gonna be popular.
Maybe we'll start a Patreon at some point.
Yeah, sure. We will see you next